Hey creative friends, it's Gwen. I'm back today with another scrapbooking process video featuring Pink Fresh Studio supplies, and this one is part of Challenge Me, Challenge You, the series that I am doing with Sue Plum, and today's challenge turns out to be quite the quest.
Challenge accepted.
Why, you ask? Because Sue challenged me to use acrylic paint. Oh, my heart dropped when I read her message. I have not used acrylic paint on a scrapbook layout for many, many years. I find them to be very daunting. I find them, generally speaking, very messy, and I don't like messy. And here I am. It does not turn out as I had initially planned, but I do love this page nonetheless. I'll share all about that as we go along. I obviously don't have a lot of acrylic paint in my stash. I did find these really pretty tones. I really like the colors, and I'm going to create a pastel version of each of these just by adding in quite a bit of white paint. I'm really struggling here with the idea of this challenge because I just don't do messy. I like things very organized. I like clean lines, and I like to have a lot of control over the placement of things in my scrapbooking. And obviously I lose all of that when I start working with things like acrylic paint. If you've been here for 5 minutes, you will know that I did go in with a plan and an idea, and it was initially to use this bubble wrap as a bit of a stamp. So I had gone ahead and trimmed 5 of these strips of white cardstock, and the idea was to use the bubble wrap as if it were a stamp. So I did the first one, and I decided I didn't like it. It looked too messy for me. I was thinking ahead to the layout that I was trying to make, and I couldn't see how the messiness of the bubble wrap was going to fit with where I was going for the rest of the layout. I guess in some ways I did chicken out a little bit, and I just went with something that just felt a lot safer. Ended up painting each of the strips fully in each of the tones of the acrylic paint. And the other thing I did notice, which is weird, and I guess maybe if I had more experience with working with paint, is that I found the colors to dry a lot deeper than they looked when I created them. Like, see how I'm mixing them there in that paint tray? I thought they looked pretty pastel, and I was trying to make them really, really pastel, but then they dried a lot darker. So I don't know about that. Okay, so I'm running with idea number 2 at this stage. Here are my pretty stripes of pastel colors, and I did have a think about it, and I did feel like I cheated a little bit. So here is my second technique with acrylic paint. I have popped some onto my print block there, and this is I don't even know what this doodad is called. A brayer. Yes, I did have to look that up. So I'm rolling a little of the acrylic paint onto my brayer, and then I'm rolling the brayer onto the background of my page. I have not added any gesso or anything to my background there. I've just used the paint directly onto the cardstock. I really was not planning on using very much, so I thought it would be okay. And you know what? It has been fine. The warping really bothers me, and I have to say it turned out great. And you can also see there how much darker it turned out, which is weird. I don't know what the go is with that. But anyway, here is my acrylic pieces, and here's my idea. I'm going to grab a paper punch. This one is a really cute little heart shape, and I'm going to punch the hearts along the strips. Initially, I was actually going to use the punched out heart parts and create some rose in my background there, but I didn't really like how that was looking, so I thought I would mix things up a little bit, and I'm actually going to use the strips themselves with the hearts, the negative shapes there, and they're going to form part of my paper layers. I do end up going with these 3 here. I just found that yellow to be too bright. I didn't add enough white to it, and I am just going to trim them slightly just to give some interest. And now we can get on with adding the paper layers and building out the layout. So for the positioning on the page, I knew I wanted to place the photo slightly to the right. So I am going to build out the embellishment clusters and the paper layers working from right to left. And I am going to start with my largest elements first. So for this page, it's going to be that tag element, my photo, and the pretty doily there. I had actually forgotten that I have a stack of these doilies in my stash, and I haven't added one to a project for quite some time. So here it is. I'm also now going to add my border, my frame for the layout, and I'm using my usual trick. The frame for the layout, the frame for my photo will be the same pattern paper. And to kind of make it 3 points of that green, it's actually repeated in the top of the tag there. Repeating patterns, colors, or shapes is a really quick and easy way to make a layout feel really put together. I can now add in my paper strips. Don't they look pretty? I like that I've gone with just those simple tones. And I did notice that this little blue one wasn't showing very much when I placed my photo over the top. So we're going to do a little hack and extend it out. No one will ever know that it was shorter. I'm using my T-square ruler to make sure that everything is nice and straight, and I will leave links in the description box below for all of the tools that I use. So if you're ever wondering where you can grab them, all the details are below. And isn't that looking pretty? I really love the colors. That's the framework of the layout sorted. It's now time to embellish. I love adding the supporting pieces. This is my most fun part of the process. I did find some really lovely puffy stickers in the collection. I love that these ones are quite large in terms of puffy stickers, and I did end up adding a couple of touches of yellow. I wasn't able to include the strip of acrylic paint yellow. It just ended up being way too bright. So I thought I would bring it in here with the ephemera pieces. There is going to be 3 points. So this little strip of yellow, which is actually going to go under the photo there. I've got the butterfly on the left, and I'm also going to use this little piece here as a subtitle title for my layout. I am going to fussy cut out the banner, but I am leaving the smallest little strip of yellow on the border there, and there is yellowy orange and pinks in the print, so I feel like that fits the color scheme really well. The circle element to the right of the photo there, that says "You are lovely," and it's in the same tones. So essentially, I am creating a visual triangle with those yellow pieces. So between the round element, bottom right hand corner of the photo, the sunshine word, and then the butterfly. I also found these 2 little words that say happy heart, and oh my goodness friends, I mess with them so much in this layout. They only end up moving about 5 mil in total, but it is exhausting how much effort I put into their exact placement. So funny. And of course, every time I reposition them, I have to recheck that they're straight. Things are getting serious because I am gluing stuff down. I have my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. I am just checking the position of that strip of paper before I lock it into position. I actually find working on a plain background like this one super hard because I have nothing to line up anything with. So, and you know what, I am the type that if it was out, I would notice it and it would annoy me no end. So for me, it's worth taking the time and just double checking everything's nice and square. The devil's in the details, right? Okay, so my photo is now locked into position. I am also going to place that banner piece. And yes, here we are readjusting the happy heart chipboard pieces. I felt that they were just a little bit low. I did want everything to be quite contained. I wanted there to be a lot of white space on this layout. Maybe that was my way of managing that messier background there. Who knows? I do really like how the right-hand side is looking. The left for me still needs some work. It doesn't feel as put together, but I will fix that here in a moment. I found this super sweet little banner piece that I'm adding to the top of the tag, and then I do audition a few ephemera pieces on the left there. The issue that I have is that I don't want to cover up the hearts because they're almost entirely covered up if I do that. But I do think it needs tightening. There needs to be something changed. I did move the butterfly down a little bit and that does help. And then I went digging through the collection and found a couple of floral pieces that I could add. The cluster on the right is my main embellishment cluster, so I am going to end up adding 2 elements to that side. But then I do end up adding a smaller element to the left here. I'm thinking a lot about the balance of the page right now, and I am very conscious too about not covering up too much of those hearts there. And yes, I end up moving those happy heart icons one more time. Those changes really do help with the left-hand side of the layout. I'm happy with how that's looking. What is bothering me slightly is just how far the paint is extended to the left there, but there's not much I can do about that. I think I'm just going to have to live with that. Looking at the layout at this point, I do still want to add a couple more things. So I did go digging and I found a couple of typed sentiments that were perfect. This one at the bottom says, "Love this day," and I do add a really pretty pink one above the word sunshine there. I found a smaller one that says, "You and me," and it happened to be in the perfect shade of green, and I really love how that sort of ties in with the top of the tag there and of course my frame. And then it hits me, I know exactly what this layout needs, a bow. I'm all about them bows, and I found one in the prettiest shade. These are ones that have been in my stash for the longest time ever. They're actually from Delish Scraps, a store that's not even open anymore. I have hoarded these beauties, and this is the perfect one for this layout. I also added a little bit of foam tape behind the butterfly on the left there just to give it some extra dimension, and then I'm going to lock everything into place. Here are some close-up images. I love the layers in this one. I love that acrylic paint is a backdrop, and then I've got lots of texture and layers with my ephemera there. Thanks so much for being here, my creative friends. If you like the way that I scrapbook or the way that I chat about the way that I scrapbook, I'd love it if you give this video a thumbs up. If you're looking for even more ways to use up your Pink Fresh Studio supplies, be sure to check out this video right here, and I'll see you all next time. Until then, bye!